Scott for Scots here. Do you hear that? Bring the mic in close. That's not how the grass should sound. There's weeds everywhere in this lawn. It's time to take action with Scott's Turf Builder Triple Action. It gets 3 jobs done at once. Kills weeds, prevents crabgrass, and feeds your lawn so it keeps growing strong. Ah, much better.
Get a bag of Scott's Triple Action today. It's guaranteed, or your money back.
Feed your lawn. Feed it.
Reese's Peanut Butter Cups are the greatest, but let me play devil's advocate here. Let's see. So, no, that's a good thing. That's definitely not a problem. Reese's, you did it. You stumped this charming devil.
The Purple Mafia, with your host, Paladino Joey.
Well, we'll see. The doctors would disagree, but what do they know?
So let's just say that you'll pay me because it's in your interest to pay me.
Is it worth it? I mean, you've won. You want to wipe everybody out?
I don't feel I have to wipe everybody out, Tom. Just my enemy. That's all. My father taught me many things. He taught me, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
These are wonderful things that we've achieved, and there's no limit to where we can go from here.
Welcome to the family here on Purple Mafia. Today is Sunday, January the 17th, 2010. It is episode number 56 of Purple Mafia. Moving right along as the numbers keep adding up. I want to thank each and every one of you for always downloading and listening to this show, which is available on thesportstuff.com and on iTunes. Quite a few of you downloaded and listened to this show this past week. It has been fantastic. I just want to thank all of you for that. It means very much to me. Couldn't have done it without you. There is no doubt about it. As the numbers just continue to increase, and I just pray to God you aren't fair weather fans out there. Stay on board this show through thick and thin, as right now things are very thick, and it's been a very, very fun season, as it absolutely, positively continues with a resounding 34-3 victory, Minnesota over the Dallas Cowboys. A well-deserved victory. A lot of us thought it'd be a lot harder than we saw. Just a very emotional victory for the Vikings, and it's just been, hey, this is pretty exciting. Unfortunately, the New Orleans Saints also had a very, very resounding victory over the Arizona Cardinals, so the friendly confines of the Metrodome will be no more for the Minnesota Vikings. The one positive, if we had to play on the road against any team in the postseason, the New Orleans Saints, well, the Vikings have won there several times. Several times over the years they've won in New Orleans. And it's never gone without being insanely interesting. Lucky victories, lucky bounces, anything crazy. You just hope that can continue for the Minnesota Vikings. Despite a lot of crazy things going against us as well, like 2 touchdowns for Reggie Bush on the punt returns last season. Very crazy. It even drew the ire of Coach Brad Childress to Chris Kluwe. That was awfully frustrating as well. So, an epic, and I mean epic, NFC Championship game is upon us, ladies and gentlemen. It is upon us. It will happen. The game we have been expecting probably since about week 6 this season. Minnesota and New Orleans is now a reality. The winner goes to the Super Bowl, and the loser continues to go home very, very frustrated. New Orleans Saints, well, this is their second shot at it. They played against the Chicago Bears in 2006 and got drubbed in Soldier Field. Minnesota Vikings, well, hey, this is our 4th NFC Championship game since never returning to the Super Bowl. As the Vikings, of course, last Super Bowl game was after the 1976 season. Of course, it was January 77, but yeah, the 76 Vikings got drubbed by the Oaktown Raiders when they actually were a good team back in the day, the Oakland Raiders with John Madden and his, he didn't have the TV lines to draw with back then. He just used his pencil and paper, and a little white marker board, whatever they used back then. I don't even know. Who knows? Doesn't matter at this point in time. And hopefully we can put all of that past behind us for good. And hopefully we can also put these past 3 NFC Championship games since then behind us. The 1987 Minnesota Vikings went on an influential run. They caught some of the energy from the from the World Series championship of the Minnesota Twins in 1987. The Vikings said, hey, the Twins are the only team in this town that can win and can pull off magical victories. The Vikings, with 9-7 record, defeated the San Francisco 49ers. Yeah, the Joe Montana-led San Francisco 49ers in the second round on the road in Candlestick Park. Minnesota going to Washington, D.C. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, it just didn't work out. The Vikings lose 17-10. Darren Nelson dropping a ball in the end zone with no time left, and overtime would not be a reality. And the Washington Redskins would move on and defeat the Denver Broncos. Absolutely destroyed the Denver Broncos. So a Super Bowl championship opportunity right out the window, unfortunately, for the Vikings right there. No doubt about that. So we had to wait 11 years for the Vikings to get back to the conference finals, the NFC Championship game. And, 98 happened. 15-1 record. 15-1 record. Minnesota Vikings competition in the the second round, of course, because, I think when you're 15-1, I think there's a pretty good chance you get the bye. To say it like Dylan, there's a pretty good chance you could get the bye. Yeah, there's a pretty good chance you'd get the bye with a 15-1 record, especially a team like that. Okay, sorry, Dylan, I had to do that. Oh boy, now I'm in big trouble. This show might not get posted on the sportstuff.com now. Nah, I'm kidding. Yeah, we'll get to that in a sec. 98 Vikings, we defeat the Arizona Cardinals. Very weak competition. It was a cute little team with Jake the Snake Plumber and, a bunch of scrubs. They won their little first-round game, came to the Metrodome, and he presented little to no resistance whatsoever for the Minnesota Vikings. Off to the NFC Championship game we go against the 14-2 Atlanta Falcons. What the Sam hell, man? Why a year that we're 15-1? Wouldn't you just know that some other stupid little team would have a great record as well, and a great team, and one of those annoying-ass teams that can punch you in the mouth, mediocre quarterback, career backup, good defense, and good running game. Oh, you sons of bitches. Yeah. Pardon my French out there, some of you that might not like that, but hey, guess what? I'm not perfect, and neither are you, so I said it. Vikings cannot beat the Atlanta Falcons, as all of you like to remember. Of course I'm going to wax nostalgic on the NFC Championship game, because this is a big deal, folks, so forgive me if I'm going a little far. But hey, when we're in the NFC Championship game, we're going to talk about it extensively. We're going to talk about the history of the NFC Championship game and the Vikings. Shucks. I'll just make one little quick quote real quick. Okay, that sounded really bad. The Vikings, talking about losing in the NFC Championship game to the Dallas Cowboys, 1975. Luckily, we don't have to deal with that this year. The old push-off, the Vikings, a lot of people said that was the best ever edition of the Minnesota Vikings. And didn't work out. There was a push-off. Dallas Cowboys, no call. Dallas Cowboys score a touchdown, and they go off to the Super Bowl and drove Denver. Again, the Minnesota Vikings would have beaten the Denver Broncos twice, or at least one of those 2 times had things been a little bit different if we could have just gotten to the damn Super Bowl. But then again, there it is. The old slogan, woulda, coulda, shoulda. Well, let's hope we don't have to bring that up about this season. But before I get to that, there's one more NFC Championship game to bring up very briefly, as there isn't really much to say about it. Old 41 Donut. Oh, yeah. 41 Donut in New York City. The Big Apple, as the Big Apple took a bite out of the Vikings. Oh, that was creative. And the Vikings showed about as much creativity as Jimmy Fallon on NBC. Yeah, that's about as much creativity the Minnesota Vikings showed in that game. 41 Donut. Jimmy Fallon, excuse me. That's about it, though. And as NBC in general, their creativity's gone out the window. Yeah, you get the idea. 41 donut. The Vikings fumbled 2 consecutive kickoffs to start the game. 2 consecutive kickoffs to start the game. It's 14-0, and less than 2 minutes are off the clock. Yeah, this year is bleeped. And I mean absolutely bleeped. And, of course, winning in New York City on the road. Good luck. Good luck with that one. That one didn't work out too good. And enough of that. I don't even want to go any further. It's the 2 fumbles and the kickoff that were like the end of that, along with the horrendous, and I mean horrendous, secondary we had back then. The Anthony Bass and Waswa Sirwanga guys like that. That was one of the worst secondaries in NFL history. Yet we still managed to get at least to the conference finals because we played a pretty weak New Orleans Saints team. Yep, New Orleans Saints. The Vikings have had pretty good history against the New Orleans Saints in the postseason. 2-0, in fact. As, we have beaten the New Orleans Saints twice in the postseason, once in the late 80s and the 2000 season. Yeah, 2-0 against the New Orleans Saints. We've had very good history against them, and it needs to continue. It absolutely needs to continue. As, we've beaten the Drew Brees-led New Orleans Saints twice in New Orleans, and it's been a lot of fun. But as I mentioned, none of them have gone without being pretty scary, and the Vikings looking pretty sloppy, turning the ball over, and giving up special teams touchdowns. So, and of course, Reggie Bush scored one. We'll review the weekend. Yeah, what a weekend indeed. Another 1-3 weekend for me. Well, really, according to this show, it's 2-2 because I picked the New Orleans Saints to defeat the New Orleans Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals. Yeah, that just shows you how mixed up I am. I said St. Louis Cardinals on NFL East to West as well this past week. And if you listening out there don't check that show out, shame on you. That is one of the most entertaining shows in the history of thesportstuff.com. And if you don't listen to it, shame on you. If you like football, you got to listen to it. It is a lot of fun. Oh, my God, Dylan and Jim Towers, those guys are the best, and they are so entertaining. If you don't listen to that, you're missing out. I mean, that is a superior show, folks. Superior show. Could be it's still fairly new technically, but those guys are veterans and they know what they're talking about, folks. And they've been behind the mic for quite a while with the sports fans, so check that out immediately. Sportstuff.com and on iTunes, NFL East to West. So forgive me for plugging that out there. That might be getting impatient. Let's get back to some football talk. Well, that is football talk technically. We're going to be reviewing the games. You get the idea. I don't think I'm even going to take a break. It's going to be kind of on the fly if I decide to take a break, split this thing up. I'm not in really any rush to take a break right now. There's no real reason to. Just got to keep going with the wind here, right? As here we go. We're going to start off with the most boring game, you could argue. Yeah, Indianapolis and Baltimore. Well, yeah, I picked the Saints. On this show, I picked the Vikings, the Saints, the Chargers, and the Baltimore Ravens. The Chargers and the Ravens both lost. The Vikings and the Saints won. But yeah, on the NFL East to West, as I started digressing, I picked the Cardinals at the last second because, I just was thinking about it. Arizona, had been winning road games in the postseason like crazy of late. Well, no, that came to a screeching halt big time. So, yeah, against the New Orleans Saints. That'll be the last game I'm going to review, the second last game. I'll review the Viking game, okay. I'll review the Viking game second last, and then the Saints, so I can do some previewing the Saints. So, there you go. That's what I'm trying to say, and I'm just a little bit too excited to say it correctly, I guess. So, let's go with the most ass game of the weekend, Indianapolis and Baltimore. In the Baltimore Bowl, the Baltimore Colts are your 2009 or 2010, whatever you want to call it, Baltimore Bowl champions with a 20-3 victory. A very weak game. But hey, Baltimore did lead. And yes, Baltimore being the Ravens did lead. Baltimore Colts, I'm telling you, that comes off the tongue better than Indianapolis Colts, even though they moved away, 26 years ago? It comes off the tongue better. I'm sorry. Indianapolis Ravens doesn't sound good either, does it? But yeah, Matt Stover. No, that's, excuse me. Matt Stover, yeah, now I'm getting confused here. Matt Stover is now on the Indianapolis Colts, as he was on the Baltimore Ravens forever. I forgot about that. Yep, they did sign him at the very end, right before the postseason. Yeah, that's a good signing, actually. The guy is a very established kicker. Just didn't work out for Baltimore Ravens. But yeah, you had a 3-3 game at the end of the first quarter, a very unentertaining game, and you figure, you know what? In a grind 'em out type of game, the Baltimore Ravens are probably going to win, because if Peyton Manning isn't out there gunslinging and kicking butt, it ain't going to. Baltimore is going to win the game. They're just going to. Nope, because Peyton Manning really turned up the heat in the second quarter, and the Indianapolis Colts won the game there. The game was over already, as the Indianapolis Colts defense really stepped up. Baltimore just couldn't seem to get things going. Just didn't play a very good football game. Peyton Manning getting 2 touchdown passes, Reggie Wayne and Austin Coley. Second quarter, Indianapolis Colts did what they had to. It was just one of those deals. Peyton Manning wasn't amazing, but he was good. He was more than good enough. Joe Flacco, he had to pass a heck of a lot more in this game because they were behind. You can't really run the ball when you're behind. And the running game, Ray Rice was good, but he only got 13 rushes in the game. It just wasn't the same game, that's for sure. Not the same game at all. Willis McGahee, only 2 rushes. McLean, 2 rushes. Not much going on. Rice was excellent, but yeah, he also lost a fumble too. That really helped the Baltimore Ravens' chances. And the Colts, they just don't run the ball much at all anyway, and they didn't in this game. Oh, they ran the ball about 25 times in this game. Yeah, that's about it. Not much going on, and Joseph Adai was pretty much running it into a brick wall with that Baltimore Ravens front line. And their secondary is even better than their front line, but Peyton Manning did what he had to. Yeah, he threw an interception, but that's it. He just threw one. That's all it was. And that's about all there is to say. And, of course, Ed Reed got that interception. What a surprise, right? Unfortunately, Baltimore could not capital and get into the end zone, as it just was not their day by any stretch of the imagination. They were only able to muster 2 sacks against that pretty damn good offensive line in Indianapolis. Very good team indeed. And that's pretty much all I'm going to say about it. Indianapolis Colts win. Ravens lose. Colts are off to the AFC Championship game. A lot of us a little surprised, expected these Indianapolis Colts to come out flat, and they didn't. They did what they had to. The Baltimore Ravens came out extremely flat. They just couldn't get anything going. The Colts defense looking very Tony Dungy-like in that particular game yesterday. So now we move on to the next game. Oh, it was slightly more entertaining. It happened just a few minutes ago now. Slightly more entertaining, but really, to be honest with you, not that much more entertaining. It was another defensive battle. Defense is good, but it's not always good. Not always. Neither team would get anything going in that first quarter. But the second quarter, San Diego finally getting something going. They got a touchdown. Phillip Rivers looked okay. But then New York started getting things clicking in that second half. Nothing amazing, but they did what they had to. And Mark Sanchez gets it done. And that's what matters. And Sean Green broke loose for a touchdown up the middle. Just got the ball and exploded up the middle. Chargers were pretty much screwed at that point, trailing by 10 with only about 7.5 minutes left. It was just pretty much a grind 'em, gut 'em out game. Mark Sanchez made believers out of all of us. The Chargers were leading 7-0 and then 7-3 for what seemed like forever. But then all of a sudden the Jets they got their 14 points in about a 6-minute span. And you know what? Sometimes that's how football is, and that's how great defensive teams win games, at home or on the road. Very 70s Pittsburgh Steeler-like in that sense. They just kind of screw around, shut the other team down, and then bam, do a couple big plays, and oh, darn it, there's no time left on the clock. San Diego able to muster 1 touchdown and make it very interesting late. Phillip Rivers getting his team to the goal line, and he ended up going in himself. Make it a 3-point game with about 2 minutes left. Figure, the Chargers have another chance. But no, they couldn't get it done. And, hey, Mark Sanchez, nothing special on this particular day. But the defense of the New York Jets looks excellent. And the running game, again, as Sean Green is looking pretty damn good. Pretty damn good. 128 yards on the ground. Of course, that 53-yard scamper to pay dirt. As the autumn wind is a Raider. Yeah, I said that wrong on NFL East to West. I said fall wind. So, yeah, we'll just move on from that. LaDainian Tomlinson, invisible again. Sproles, well, pretty invisible as well. Phillip Rivers, yeah, when you throw 2 interceptions and only 1 touchdown, it's just he just didn't get it done. You get those turnovers. A team like New York is going to capitalize, even though Sanchez wasn't spectacular. Certainly his accuracy level dropped about 30%. He was about 80% last week, but he threw a teeny bit more. Not their day. New York Jets, San Diego Chargers, not their day. The New York Jets did what they had to, and they're going to the AFC Championship game. The New York Jets are going to the AFC Championship game. They barely made the playoffs. And it was funny when my mom asked me, do you think the New York Jets are mad that Brett Favre left? Well, right now they don't care. They're in the NFC Championship game with a rookie quarterback. That's pretty good. So very similar to Joe Flacco. The New York Jets are now officially last year's version of the Baltimore Ravens. A really nice running game, a nice young quarterback who does what he has to, and, well, he turns the ball over less than Flacco did last year. But, hey, in both cases, they both did what they had to. And, hey, New York Jets, conference finals. Unfortunately, I think the Baltimore Colts, Indianapolis Colts. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they win and represent the AFC. Wouldn't be surprised at all. We'll get to that in a sec, though. That'll probably be pretty brief. The AFC is just, it's going to be interesting, but I don't know. I don't know how much longer the Jets are going to keep this up. That's a little crazy. So now we'll move into the games you guys care about. The Minnesota Vikings and the New Orleans Saints. Yep, here we go. So we'll talk about the Viking game today first before we get into the Saints. Because we got to talk about the past before we talk about the future, right? Well, the Dallas Cowboys came in. All the announcers in the NFL were saying the Dallas Cowboys, hey, they're the hottest team in the NFL right now. Or at least the second hottest until, now the Chargers are done. 2 of the quote-unquote hottest teams in the NFL both said bye-bye this weekend. Yep, yes, they did. Chargers winning 10 in a row. Over. Cowboys on that nice run. Over. Philadelphia Eagles with their nice run at the end of the year. Well, over last week. And Dallas just shot themselves in the foot I don't know how many times today, man. And what did I say about 900 times last week? And no offense to anybody at all. And, of course, actually Jim Towers, of course this is no offense to Jim Towers, as being a great NFL mind that he is. He knew exactly what I was talking about. And that's not saying I'm a great super-duper dude, but I do know what I'm talking about. You pressure Tony Romo in a very tough environment, and he's going to make mistakes. If he's a good quarterback or if he's Spurgeon Wynn-like. Tony Romo is going to make mistakes in a tough situation. And ladies and gentlemen, the Minnesota Vikings pressured the living hell out of Tony Romo in this game with 6 sacks. Count them, 6 sacks. And who won the ball game? The Minnesota Vikings won the ball game. And Jim Towers also made the comment, now of course this on NFL East to West, if Brett Favre was facing tons and tons of pressure, that it could have been the opposite. Well, yeah, it very well could have. The Vikings offensive line not so great early on. But again, I'm going to say it, and I know Jim Towers got a little irritated when me and Dylan went into this. Dome field advantage was a factor. And no, it's not the only factor. It's not the main factor. The Minnesota Vikings came on and won a football game, and they did what they had to do to defeat the Dallas Cowboys on this particular day. That's all there is to it. That's all there is to it. Sean Swissum, whatever you want to, I can't remember how to say it. But I feel bad for him. I really do. And it's just like, they're kind of riding into him. Oh, you got to make those, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, the 38-yarder that he missed, when he tried to make it 7-3. No, but first, though, real quick, I'm getting ahead of myself. The Dallas Cowboys on the opening drive, it was a little scary because they won the coin toss. It was a little scary. They continued to move and move and move. But doggone it, Tony Romo fumbled the ball. Again, see, that's what I'm getting at. I got a little excited and got ahead of myself. Tony Romo fumbled the football. And, you pressure the guy, and he makes mistakes. Interceptions and fumbles the ball. Vikings dodge a bullet. The Cowboys weren't exactly on the goal line, but they were on, the 40, 38, 39. They were moving. They're getting those first downs. Witten and Austin were really stepping it up on this particular day. But then the Vikings, after a really weak first drive, stopped the Cowboys, and Brett Favre launches one to Sidney Rice. That was just a perfect pass right in the breadbasket. That's literally what it was too. It was a nice little up and drop right into Sidney Rice. You don't pass a ball more perfect than that one. I mean, it was perfect. That was sickeningly perfect. So no throwing arm running out of gas for Brett Favre this year. I mean, obviously, it just continues. 4 touchdown passes today, 3 of them to Sidney Rice, tying a playoff record. Sidney Rice and Jerry Rice. How about that? Sidney Rice and Jerry Rice. Beautiful. How cool is that? Oh, it's really cool. But now I'm going to get to the Sean Sissom thing. Yeah. When the Cowboys had a chance to make it 7-3, Sean Sissom missed a 38-yarder. And yes, that's a kick you got to make in a postseason, especially when there's no wind. It's an indoor field. 38 yards, and he missed it. And it wasn't horribly missed, but it was missed. It was just, that's all there's to it. You either make it or you miss it. Yeah, no excuse there. You got to make that kick. You're a professional. This is a postseason game. You got to make that kick. But the second one was 49 yards out, and he missed by like a millimeter. And the announcers are riding on him saying, "Oh, yeah, you got to make those kicks." La 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 la. It was a 49-yard kick. Come on, that's going to happen. Even the great kickers miss those. So come on, don't ride on the guy and treat him like that. I mean, the guy's got to be feeling pretty bad, and of course, he didn't cost him the game. No, the Cowboys did not play the game today. They just did not. When they got punched in the mouth, they didn't respond to the Vikings whatsoever. But I had to get that across. Pissing all over that guy was not cool. At least now you can say the guy did not cost the Dallas Cowboys anything. But yeah, Favre and Rice, just what an amazing game. Ryan Longwell didn't have to worry about kicking any long field goals in this day. His only, the field goal 23 yards out, just a chip shot, extra point type field goal, not too bad. Yeah, Vikings going to halftime leading 17-3, made it look way too easy. It kind of got him out and extremely boring in that third quarter. Vikings sourcing the Cowboys in interceptions, getting some and fumbles. It was just, Tony Romo fumbled, 3 times today? Not good. Lost it twice. He also threw one interception, did not get the ball in the end zone at all. The Cowboys did not see the end zone today. Felix Jones, pretty scary guy, but once the Cowboys are behind, you can't really run too much. Felix Jones just looks really good. Vikings are very fortunate that the Cowboys couldn't really utilize their round game because they were behind by so much most of the day, and that Tony Romo, the Vikings were able to pressure him enough on this particular day. As I've said that about a million times, those 2 words, particular day. I should just call this show Particular Day Podcast. Pretty cool. But yeah, you pressure Tony Romo and the game's over, folks. Simple. Football's a simple game. It's simpler than a lot of people want to make it. And a guy like Tony Romo, he's just not the kind of guy that's going to respond. Some guys respond better than others. Peyton Manning is one of them. So, hey, if Peyton Manning's on the ground and it's a sack, then, that speaks for itself as well. Just wonderful job of the defensive line in the Minnesota Vikings. And I'm going to say this, and I'm going to say this again and again and again and again. Granted, there's only 2 games left, potentially. The defensive line will win the Super Bowl for the Minnesota Vikings. If the Vikings win the Super Bowl, it'll be the defensive line. Got it? The defensive line is what will win the Super Bowl for the Minnesota Vikings. Brett Favre and Adrian Peterson will help, and they will help so much, especially if Adrian Peterson continues to hang on to the ball, which he's done. He's starting to hang on to the ball more now, the last 2 games at least. We'd like him to break loose a little more. Cowboys' run defense looked pretty good. It looked actually very good. But we'd like to see him break loose. There's a pretty good chance he could against the New Orleans Saints. I think the Vikings will be passing some, and they're going to do a little mix of that. Get into that in a sec as I get further into the Saints. We're going to wrap this one up first. It was just a well-played game by the Vikings overall. The safeties, they're okay. We're not really. The secondary didn't really get tested in this game. They really didn't. Romo just did not have a good football game. He just did not have a good football game at all. I thought the Vikings ran up the score a little bit late in the game. They did not need to do that. It was already 27-3. And I know, don't get pissed off at a team for doing its job. And when you're on the offense, your job is to score a touchdown or a field goal, right? But at the same time, they didn't need to leave Brett Favre in with, what was it, 2 minutes left and to score another touchdown. They didn't need to do that, in my opinion. But hey, it was fun. And I know a lot of Viking fans hate the Dallas Cowboys. And historically, I hate the Dallas Cowboys too. But with Terrell Owens gone, it's a little, I don't hate him nearly as much. And it was also funny to have Troy Aikman as the color commentator in the game. Didn't sound biased, though, believe it or not. Some of you may disagree, but I don't think he sounded biased. Heck, he was saying good calls several times when calls went against the Dallas Cowboys. A few close ones, like the fumble by Tony Romo very early, when they're like, oh, his knee might have been down. But no, he didn't have possession. And Troy Aikman came out and said it. Pretty cool there. Just thought I'd bring that up. But, yeah, overall, the game almost seemed too easy, and I just hope and pray that this isn't just some kind of screwing around fest, so to speak. Dallas not showing up. But their defense did show up, and then Brett Favre eventually exploited what he saw. He saw the right things going on, and the Vikings looked a lot like they did against the New York Giants. So those of you out there wondering if the Giants game was an indication of who the Vikings are, well, it may very well could be. Brett Favre has 8 touchdown passes in 2 weeks now in the Dome. And the Cowboys, last time I checked, a lot better than the New York Giants, especially finishing up the season. It's looking good, folks. It's looking good. And the New Orleans Saints defense is not nearly as good as the Dallas Cowboys. So let's segue before I talk about this too much, and this is a 5-hour show. As much as I could make this a 5-hour show, I don't think I'd be in the best interest of you, the listener out there, or really myself. I can only go on too long. Oh boy! Oh my God! Oh my God! Arizona! What happened? What happened to the Arizona Cardinals? Whew. Yeah, a lot of us thought that New Orleans is screwed when Tim Hightower broke loose right away on the first possession of the game for a 70-yard touchdown. 7-0 Arizona in New Orleans. Is like, Cardinals are going to upset the New Orleans Saints. Vikings are going to host the NFC Championship game. The door to the Super Bowl comes through the Dome, and the Vikings are not going to lose a home game in the Metrodome or the Mall of America Field or the field with the dome. I don't know what the hell you want to call it. It's an old stadium that hosts the Vikings, and the Vikings were 9-0 in the Metrodome. And who said the Vikings would be undefeated in the Dome? That's right, your host, Paladino Joey Owajan, said it. And I'm sure some of you out there as well, but I said that from more of an analytical point of view, not from just a, go Vikings, I'm wearing purple paint all day, I'm wearing purple paint all week at work, even though I'm an executive. No. Nice start by the Arizona Cardinals, but that was the end of that. And I mean, that was the end of that. Hardcore, folks. New Orleans Saints, in a span of 7 minutes, had 3 scoring drives. 3 scoring drives. Kurt Warner was not the same guy on this particular day. The New Orleans Saints looked pretty damn tough. Kurt Warner was fairly accurate. He wasn't horrible. He only had 1 turnover. But, no. Just did not work out in any way, shape, or form for the New Orleans Saints after that early touchdown. The Arizona Cardinals just disappeared. Their defense looked a lot like what you'd expect. The Arizona Cardinals defense sucks. And ladies and gentlemen, in a 2-week span, the Arizona Cardinals have given up 90 points. Oh my God! Congratulations, New Orleans Saints, for giving up 90 points in 2 postseason games. Woo! Good job, New Orleans. Arizona, great effort. Great effort, Arizona, on the defensive side of the football.
Come on, man.
And it's like I said on NFL East to West.
Seriously?
That defense in Arizona is unspeakably bad. It's the equivalent of crap taking a crap. That's what it was. That's about what kind of defense it was. All right, forgive that lame thought right there, but that's what it was. It was garbage. So let's continue. Let's continue before I get a little too childish here. Yeah, the New Orleans Saints had 3 scoring drives in a 7-minute span, but it was still just a 2-possession game, and Arizona wasn't quite done yet. Beanie Wells, the emerging running back in Arizona, was able to finish out a drive for the Cardinals to make it 21-14. Cardinals finally showed some fire. Kurt Warner doing what he does best. That West Coast offense with that quick release. I mean, the guy has the quickest release in the NFL, and I'm going to say that until he retires. And I'm going to say that 25 years after he retires, that the guy had one hell of a quick release. Fastest release in the league when he played. We'll say that at the time. He's a great quarterback, and I hope he doesn't retire. He's the other Brett Favre. He's the other Brett Favre, folks. He really is. I don't think he's as big and tough as Brett Favre, but he's pretty close. He's pretty close to that. And he certainly has the skill level of somebody near that range. And ladies and gentlemen, Kurt Warner to me is a Hall of Famer. He's a Hall of Famer, absolutely. So let's continue. Arizona making it a one-possession game. One-possession game for the Arizona Cardinals. And Drew Brees, though, goes to work. Devery Henderson exploding. Oh, boy. Catching an explosion from Devery Henderson. I mean, this team has so many flipping weapons. It's frightening. And before you know it, it's 35-14. Drew Brees just finishing drive after drive with the New Orleans Saints. Every time they had an opportunity, they got it done. And suddenly it was 35-14, and you're just staring at the screen going, oh, my. And it's not even halftime yet, and they already have 35 points. And I got that tightness in my throat because, Vikings do need to win the game against Dallas tomorrow. But if and when, because you like to say that, and when they do, they got to go to New Orleans. And, that lull that the New Orleans Saints had at the end of the year, I don't know. Yes, Arizona's defense totally sucks. And I mean sucks big time. But 45 points is 45 points, folks. And their defense was pretty good against a team that scored 51 points last week. Really 45 points offensively, but 51 total. New Orleans Saints defense looked pretty good. And it's not that good. No, it isn't, but still. It was pretty timely. They were getting into people's faces. They were knocking the ball down at the right place at the right time. There weren't that many openings for the Arizona Cardinals to really open up the passing game. They really got in those passing lanes and knocked the ball down. Might have to be, I don't know. They played that cover 2 pretty darn good, actually, the New Orleans Saints. It was quite impressive. The good part, New Orleans Saints only were able to amass 1 sack. You do that against the Minnesota Vikings, and the Vikings win the game. The Vikings win the game. Because you know what else? How many interceptions did the New Orleans Saints get? Yeah, they got 1. 1. And it only gained 5 yards. It wasn't these interception touchdowns, which by Darren Sharper, and all of a sudden everybody thinks, people actually thought he was the MVP. No, he's not the MVP. The MVP, most valuable player, Darren Sharper? Yeah, he had a really nice year. But just because a aging safety has a really nice year, forcing turnovers, he's a gambler. And sometimes gamblers win. Sometimes they do, believe it or not. You don't give a most valuable player award to a gambler. You just don't do that. You give the most valuable player award to a guy who's consistent and gets it done time in and time out, like Ed Reed. That's more of an MVP type of safety. So you get my drift? Darren Sharper is not a great coverage guy. He just forces turnovers. And yes, turnovers can change the outcome of games. But folks, the objective safety is to stop players, not just force turnovers. There's, just because a guy blocks a lot of shots in the NBA doesn't mean he's a great defender. You still got to stop the guy from scoring. Funny. Yeah, they get 58 points allowed. You got 2 interceptions. That doesn't mean he necessarily did a good job stopping the pass. So, I hope you get my idea there. And yes, turnovers are huge, absolutely huge. But it doesn't always mean everything, folks. And I'm telling you, Jimmy Hitchcock sure the hell didn't get interceptions and didn't change the game for the Minnesota Vikings when they needed it most against those blankety-blank Atlanta Falcons 11 years ago now. So, all right, enough of my ranting, even though I'm going to continue doing it more and more because I think it's fun, and I think you listeners like it, and I enjoy it. I'm not doing it just to show off and get more listeners. It's not an act, folks. I've been too reserved. I'm going to open up more. Being reserved is stupid, so get behind the mic and say what's on your mind, right? Let's just keep this up. Reggie Bush, where the hell has he been for about the first half of his career on the ground? All he's been is really a special teams, the Herschel Walker type. God forbid you'd call a guy Herschel Walker, right? Yeah, the guy looked pretty good on the ground. 46-yard explosion. But, yeah, had 84 yards and only 5 rushes. Pretty good. Pierre Thomas, well, he looks okay, but he hurt his ankle. He's hobbling around. Uh-oh. Where's Pierre Thomas's health going to be when he plays against the Minnesota Vikings and that great rush defense? A little more dangerous than the Arizona Cardinals rush defense, I would have to say. Because how many times did the Arizona Cardinals pressure Drew Brees in this game? How many sacks did they get on Drew Brees? Bump, bump, ba-dum. 0. You got it, folks. 0 sacks. 0 sacks by that astounding defensive stalwart Arizona Cardinals. And like I said on NFL East to West, you know what pisses me off about the Arizona Cardinals? Why the hell did they look like the Pittsburgh Steelers against the Vikings back when we played? What was that? When the Vikings were 10-1. What was that? Garbage, man. And that's what pissed me off. That's why I was super pissed off that night. I was screaming so loud you wouldn't believe it, folks. Because a team with defense like that has no business making the Vikings look like complete, utter crap. So that's what pissed me off, just a little bit on that particular day. Okay, back to business. You get the idea, though, folks. You get the idea. Neither one of these teams has a great defense, and I'm making that statement again. I'm making that statement again, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think Darren Sharper is going to get an interception against Brett Favre. And I know he's chomping at the bit because he can hurt the Vikings who, they wanted him to stop gambling. Yeah, and when he stopped gambling, Darren Sharper's not that good of a defensive player, is he? No, he's not. He's really not, is he? Well, gall darn it, he just isn't that good at it. And then they let him gamble, and he gets 19 interceptions. Now, no, I don't hate Darren Sharper, and I don't think he's even a below average player or anything, but at the same time, the guy's getting older, and he's not the kind of guy I think is just like, oh my God, we can't pass on the New Orleans Saints. You can't do it. Don't pass on the Saints. Oh my God, Darren Sharper's, oh my God, he's in the secondary. If you pass the ball, we're screwed. No, Ed Reed is a lot scarier than him, and yet the Vikings still managed to score, 40 points on the Baltimore Ravens earlier this year? That's pretty good. Brett Favre looked pretty damn good against the Baltimore Ravens, didn't he? And that passing, he fooled us all in that game, by the way. I thought the Vikings were going to run because that's what you'd want to do against the Baltimore Ravens is run a little bit and pass if it's there, go for the pass. But you want to run more on Baltimore with that pass defense. Favre said, screw that, I'm going to keep passing. And what did he get? He got 350 yards in that game. So, yeah. You get the idea, though. I don't think the New Orleans Saints pass defense is that scary. And, folks, if they can only get 1 sack on Kurt Warner in a game like that, well, and yes, Kurt Warner's release on his passes is unbelievably fast, but at the same time, you can still sack a quarterback if your defense is good. You only get 1 sack in a game like that, well, gosh darn it, I don't think the Vikings, I don't think Brett Favre is going to be hit that much in this game. I think we can beat this defense, and I think the Vikings can win in New Orleans. I'm not guaranteeing nothing. I ain't guaranteeing no victory. You don't know who's going to show up in the game. You never know, but I'm telling you, the Vikings offense looks unbelievably good right now. Yeah, it was sputtering a little bit at the very beginning, but hey, you don't play in 2 weeks. Sometimes it just takes a couple of attempts to get going. And the good part is, though, it only took one quick 3 and out, and then there you go, a scoring drive. And a very nice-looking scoring drive against a better defense than these Arizona Cardinals. Than the New Orleans Saints. Sure as hell better than the Arizona Cardinals defense, but I think the Vikings can win this game. I'm not guaranteeing them to win, but I am going to pick the Vikings to defeat the New Orleans Saints. It is going to be a shootout. It is going to be close. A lot of weird stuff might happen, and folks, a lot of weird stuff has happened in New Orleans. I don't know how many times, including the 2-point conversion where Culpepper, oh my God, Culpepper fumbled? Wow, he fumbled a ball? Yeah, he did. That was the beginning of the good times of the Bumble Fingers Culpepper. Fumbled the snap and ran it in for a 2-point conversion. Defeated the New Orleans Saints in that particular day to end like a 99-game losing streak for the Vikings at the time when Dennis Dumbass Green was fired the year before. Mike Tice's first road victory. It was a nice gut-him-out attempt, going for the 2-point conversion on the road. That was fun. Both teams sucked back then. And then a couple of years ago, Vikings won a pretty crazy game in New Orleans. That was a fairly fun game in that 2005 season. The Vikings were able to win that one on the road. And the Vikings were also able to defeat the New Orleans Saints in that psychotic back-and-forth battle last year. Bush's demolition, I called it. Bush's demolition. 2 kick returns for a touchdown. And Drew Brees looked almost perfect. I remember the drop pass, a batted up pass by a poor attempt by the receiver of New Orleans. I forget which player it was. I think it might have been Devery Henderson, actually. Yeah, he lost the ball in the air. Or was it Shockey? That guy sucks. Jeremy Shockey, ball up in the air, intercepted. Yeah, that was not Drew Brees' fault. But the Vikings were able to win that game with Tavares Jackson at quarterback. No. Gus Frerotte at quarterback. Yeah, Gus Frerotte passed in these New Orleans Saints pretty nicely last year. But I won't fool myself. Greg Williams is now the defensive coordinator. And yes, the defense is more intelligent. And that does help Darren Sharper a lot and other guys on this defense. But the New Orleans Saints haven't really proven themselves as a truly good defensive team. They've given up points this year, and they've outscored teams. It's their offense that wins their games. It's their offense that wins the games, and their defense is the reason why they've lost games, past and present. So right now, I think the Vikings can pull this out. It is in a dome. This isn't in a cold New York City game in the NFC Championship game. If the Vikings come out and they play smart football, and I'm believing they can. I believe they can. They just play smart football. They hang on to the football and hopefully force a turnover or two and can get some pressure on Drew Brees. Yeah, you're going to give up some points against these guys, folks. You're going to give up some points. Drew Brees is about as good a quarterback as there is in the entire NFL. He is so damn good. I mean, he is so good. Oh, Drew Brees is just amazingly good. And the running game is starting to improve. But, hey, Pierre Thomas, a little gimpy. Reggie Bush, well, I think the Vikings can stop him on the ground. The question is, can they stop him in special teams? Well, we'll find out. Just don't kick the ball to him this time, please, Mr. Chris Cluey. Don't kick the ball to Reggie Bush. Save us all a little bit of stress over here, will you? That was pretty disgusting last year. They have a lot of weapons, though. You got Marcus Colston, Devery Henderson's a good receiver. Jeremy Shockey, he's okay. Reggie Bush obviously can receive out of the backfield in a big way. He's kind of like Percy Harvin, actually. Reggie Bush and Percy Harvin, kind of similar, actually. Kind of similar. Not going to have the best numbers in the world, but when they explode, they can change games and special teams and receiving and a rush or two here and there. Pierre Thomas can also receive out of the backfield. That was bad. That was weird. Lance Moore has virtually disappeared. Undersized receiver who was kind of a nice little story. He's disappeared. Don't know what's going on there. Doesn't really matter. Marcus Colston obviously is. Marcus Colston is the scariest, I think, overall, other than Reggie Bush and his excellent overall game. It's going to be very interesting, and I think the Vikings pull it out. I think it's going to be like something like 41-38, something like that. It's going to be pretty scary. The Vikings I think they're going to finally escape the NFC Championship game with a victory and head to their fifth Super Bowl and their first in 33 years. That is my opinion. And yeah, it's going to be against the Indianapolis Colts. It's going to be Brett Favre versus Peyton Manning. Yeah, I think New York Jets run ends. If it doesn't, well, hey, cool. I guess it's cool anyway. 9-7 team gets to the Super Bowl. I think the Vikings win that. I think the Vikings would beat the New York Jets in the Super Bowl. It'd be kind of funny to see Brett Favre against the New York Jets. You better beat them. You don't lose a game like that. Even though the Chargers lost today with a 13-3 record, no excuse whatsoever. Norv Turner is done, I think, after that. That's bull crap. You don't lose a game like that. I don't care how good the New York Jets are playing. I don't care how good their defense is. And I don't care how smart Mark Sanchez is for a rookie and how good their running game is. You don't lose a game like that at home. You don't do that if you're a 13-3 football team. You just don't do that. And that's why I picked the Chargers to win the game because I you don't lose a game like that. But they did. So to hell with it. How about it? Minnesota and Indianapolis in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I think so. But it hasn't happened yet. So we'll worry about it when it comes on next week's show. Yep, we'll worry about it when it comes on next week's show. Regardless of who is in the Super Bowl, we will have a game reviewing the conference championship appearances and an early preview of the Super Bowl. We're not going to preview or talk about the Pro Bowl, and putting the Pro Bowl ahead of the Super Bowl is one of the stupidest, most irresponsible things the NFL has ever done in their history. In fact, it just might be the worst thing. Just about. It just about might be. What were they thinking? Really? You have players like Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, possibly might be the two Super Bowl quarterbacks. You're going to have them play in the Pro Bowl. What are you doing? Adrian Peterson? Don't even. And Sidney Rice? That's just dumb. Jared Allen, all those guys. This better be the last time they ever do that. You got to have the Pro Bowl after the Super Bowl. I'm sorry. That's just irresponsible. I don't care if it's a ratings push or what it is, gimmick, whatever. Don't ever do that again, Mr. Oh, what a dumb move. Don't ever do that again, Commissioner Goodell. Don't know what he was thinking there. So, expect me back on NFL East to West again. It will happen. It will be a reality. We'll be recording it Friday night, just like this past week. Jim Towers and Dylan will be Dylan and Jim Towers, whichever order. Dylan's the official host, and of course the executive producer on thesportstuff.com. Jim Towers. That dude speaks his mind, and he is just excellent. Love him. Love both of those guys. They both speak their mind. Yeah, got to check that show out. And no trash. I mean, no trash talking to Jim Towers and the Dallas Cowboys. They just did not show up to play today. Well, they did show up, but they got punched in the mouth, and that was the end of the story for the Dallas Cowboys. So, one way or another, whichever team punched the other in the mouth, how would they respond? The Cowboys did not respond after being punched in the mouth. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the result. A 34-3 win. I can't believe the Cowboys didn't respond at all. But, hey, I'm glad they didn't. Now the hope is the Vikings can continue that unbelievably good run they're on right now. Let's go. Let's take it to the Super Bowl and let's win the damn thing. Let's win it. Let's win the Super Bowl this year. So, we are going to call it a show. I would like you to please call in. As, by the way, Anthony from L.A., thank you so much for signing up to the message boards. Awesome to see you on there. Also noticed you added me on Facebook. Terrific. Thank you for signing up on thesportstuff.com. I know there are many, many, many of you out there listening to this show. The numbers have just been amazing. And again, I can't thank all of you enough for being a part of the show. And please stick with the show after the season. Don't just leave because, the Vikings aren't 13-3 now. If the Vikings aren't 13-3 next year, don't go running away. You better stick to this show. I need you guys. Stay with me. Stay with me. You're really, really helping, making this so worth it for me. Well, I'd like you guys to sign up for the message boards on thesportstuff.com. Button in the upper right-hand corner says TSS Boards. Do click on that. and then click on register, and you're on. You're on board. You can post in the polls in the podcaster section, talk in the NFL section, Minnesota Vikings section, all that good stuff. But also, call in to the phone lines, 209-736-7877, 209-736-7877, and we will talk about the Minnesota Vikings in the conference finals next week. We will talk about the result. And are you ready for some football? This is the real thing now. This is the real thing. That's why I really went into NFC Championship history the last 23 years for the Vikings, 1987 to this day, because they were in the conference finals, baby. It's been a while. It's been 9 years. And, yeah, it's our 4th appearance in 23 years. Let's make the 4th time a charm. Let's beat these New Orleans Saints. So we'll be back very soon. Again, check me out on the NFL East to West this week, and do expect me to return to that show, because I will be returning. That was about the best experience I've ever had on radio. So we will talk to you guys soon. Do take care.